had a few questions on whips, because the whips that I make, that we showed you in one of the last videos, are just it's basically a goad stick with a lash at the end. And the reason that I do these is because I can do one of these in 30 minutes. They come out really fast. But a lot of people have had questions on the twisted whips, and I showed you both of these twisted whips in the last video. This is a very traditional whip that we used, especially in southern New England, but if you look at any old pictures from the 1800s, mid-1900s, up until, I mean, we still use them today, obviously, a lot of teamsters would make or use a twisted whip. And the advantage of a twisted whip is they look nice, but secondly, they're extremely flexible, and they're very strong because of the flexibility and how the strands of the wood are twisted together. So we've got something special today. We've got some of these in different stages of being made, so I'll show you how the basic process is. And they're not difficult at all, but what it is it's time consuming, and it can be exceedingly frustrating because you can get all the way to the end and twist it, and then you can have one break. And we've got one in that state where it's all the way at the end. We're gonna have, my son Isaac is going to twist it on camera and see if we end up breaking it or not. If we break it, big deal. If not, we've got a stick. So we'll show you the steps to that. And then maybe in some future videos, we'll go back and take the oxen out, the steers out, and do some more stuff with them. But we thought that this would be a good short video to do for you. So in one of my last videos, we showed you how I make the straight sticks, basically a goad stick. And in our circles here, traditionally, especially the twisted sticks are made of hickory. I make a lot of my straight sticks out of hickory. Also, white oak is used. White oak, I feel, is better because it works a lot easier. The grain is straighter. Hickory, the grain can get a little funky, and it can be hard to work. But it's strong wood and it works really well, but it's a little harder to work with hand tools. The basic first steps, though, for making a twisted stick are the same as what we talked about with a straight stick. So we take our hickory or our white oak and we split it up. We can use a hatchet and a hammer, split it down so that we get approximately a 1-inch squared end. We can also do this on a power saw, and as long as we have a blank around 1-inch square approximately, that's what we're going to start with. I'm 6'6", so you can see that this thing is about 6 feet tall. This is a little bit, or 5.5 feet tall. This is probably a little too big for what we would need, so we would just cut it down into the proper length. Whips can range anywhere, 36 inches, 40 inches, up or down a little bit. It just depends what the teamster's preference is. Mine's about 40 inches with about an 18 to 20 inch lash. That's typically what I'll use. And really, you don't need any special tools other than something like this really helps. This is just an oak board, and we have a C-clamp attached to one end, and I've got 5 holes drilled in it on the other end, which we'll show you what those are for later. And this serves a couple purposes. If we put it on our bench and we clamp it down, it is basically a jig where we can hold the stick and go to the next step, which is planing it. So now the next step, once we have some way of holding the stick, you can see it in the C-clamp, it holds it by the end, which is really nice. Well, we're going to start out with about a 1-inch square stick, and we're going to take a hand planer and plane it down in a manner that basically creates basically a triangle or a taper. So if we take a close look at this, you'll see that we've got approximately 1 inch on the handle end, and we've got it down to about a 1/4 inch on the top. This one, obviously, we've got some defects in it, so we'll probably have to cut it a little bit and redo it. But that's essentially what we want. We want to start by taking that blank and then planing it down so that we have a large end for the handle and evenly planed down so that we have about a 1/4 inch at the end, maybe 3/8 of an inch. And we want it nice and straight on each side. Uniformity is super important when it comes to a twisted stick. If we get one piece that's too big or too small, then it doesn't twist right and it can break. So that's the next step. And again, it's time consuming, but that's what you're gonna do next. So I trimmed this down just a little bit. I took that defect out of the end. We've still got some defects in it, but we'll see how it goes. And then the next step is to scribe lines from the top all the way to the top of where your handle will be, which will, probably be right about there. That's where our handle's gonna be. So we're just gonna take a pencil and we want a nice center line all the way from the top to the bottom, making sure that you can eye this if you do this a couple times, but we want to make sure that it's perfectly centered, because we're going to use that to cut our 4 pieces out so that we can then shape them into what we need for the whip. So that's one of our center lines. We're going to turn it 90 degrees, and we'll just do the same thing on the second side. So we have Isaac demonstrating our next step. So now we've got the scribe lines marked, and we're going to just put it in a vise so that we got a few inches of the top sticking through, and we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're just going to take a rip saw and saw that all the way down, and you want to make sure that you're as centered as possible. So stop as many times and make sure that the cut is perfectly centered, and you can watch it as you go down. So he's going to demonstrate how to do this. We've got the stick cut in 4 ways, so what you'll end up with is 4 pieces of wood like this and a handle down here. This is a really shorty one, so it just happens to be what we made this time. Now, the next step, once you get the 4 pieces cut out, like we showed you, is you've got to shape each piece. So Isaac, what do you do with that?
You want to make sure that they're all the same size. You have to get it as close as you can. You can use sandpaper or a piece of metal, maybe glass, and you would just scrape it down with this, and then you could sand it down like this on the inside and outside. Yep,
and what Isaac said was right on. So in order for it to twist correctly, each piece has to be the same diameter all the way from the top to the bottom, and they should be nice and perfectly round. So this is one that's been soaking. We'll show you how we soak it here in a second. But we've soaked this for about, I don't know, a little more than 24 hours. We're going to put it in the jig and see if we can twist it, and we're going to show you on camera whether we pass or fail. We'll show you the real life situation. So we'll do that next. So you may ask yourself, how do you go to the next step and actually soak it? We just borrow the steer's water trough. So we've got the stick that we've finished shaping, and we got it on the bottom of the trough. 24 to 48 hours or so until it's soaked through. You can go a more fancy route and put it in a gutter or make a piece of gutter or pipe or something, as long as it's submerged in water and it gets soaked through. So we'll go ahead and twist it next. So now is the moment of truth. You need your board with the 4 holes. You need an adjustable wrench. We'll just fit this over the end of the handle. If you mark it up, we'll just sand it out after. And then we're going to put each piece in one of the holes. Okay, get it in, not so far that we're splitting anything, but you can see here how it's spread out. And Isaac, you're going to do this for me. So we're going to twist it slowly and then put pressure on it. Here, stand back a little bit. We're going to put pressure on it this way because it's going to want to spring out. So we're going to push on it this way and slowly turn it, and as we get closer to the twist getting to the board, we'll just allow it to come out, okay? All right, so let's see if it works. Moment of truth. All right. Actually, I'm not going to say anything because I'll jinx ourselves. All right, now let it come out a little bit. See how you're kind of bending down? Keep it straight with the holes. Okay, there you go. Now turn it a little bit more. What do you think? Is it going to break?
Yeah, I think it's going to break.
I hope not. See, and this is the hard part with twisted sticks. They're so time consuming that you get to this point and they end up,
split a little there.
Yeah, it's starting to split just a little bit. They end up breaking. And you want a nice tight twist too. And if you don't have all of the strands or the pieces evenly sized with one another, you'll get one that kind of wraps around the others and it doesn't look right. So we're actually doing okay. All right. And when we get to the end, you don't want to pull it all the way out because it'll unspring. So just, okay, we're about another inch. Okay, hold on, right there. All right, not bad so far. Okay, let's pause. All right, moment of truth. Actually, Isaac did a fantastic job. If you look along this, it twisted pretty well. We've got a couple pieces that are slightly bigger, and you notice at the end, this is really where it counts. We got one little tiny one here, and it's gonna look a little funny, but that's okay. So when we get to the end, I actually have a piece that I'm missing. I just gotta make it. It's a wooden peg with two nails. So you'd have a nail sticking this way and a nail sticking that way. It would just allow you to twist the very end of it, but we're going to try to grab it here. You always, you know, you might lose the end of it. Okay. And we're gonna hold that, prevent it from coming apart. Not bad. Came out pretty good. And then we're gonna tie off the end so it stays, so we'll do that next. So Isaac did an awesome job on this. It came out really good. It's a little short, so the next one will make it be a little bit longer. It twisted really nice, all the way up to about the end, where we had one piece that was a little bit too small. But this was a great start. So what we'll do, tie off the end. Everybody's got extra baling twine everywhere, so we're gonna tie that off. And then if you have a lolly column in your basement or a post somewhere, you can take 2 or 3 strings and wrap it around and tie it nice and tight so it stays straight, and when it dries, it'll be nice and straight. Leave it for a few days or a week, take it off, and then put a keeper on it. And if you need to learn how to put a keeper on it, just look at my other video on making sticks. We show you how to do that. You can sand down the handle a little bit. We put the V-notches in it afterwards, because that's a good way to kind of manage where your animals are as far as in relation to you. So if you want to walk them nice and straight, maybe we'll do some stuff on that. There's lots of little tricks that make your life easier when it comes to driving, but this was great. It was exciting to get this and not have it break. Sometimes they splinter and break. Now, when you have a twisted stick, there is some maintenance that you want to do to it. So a couple times a year, you're going to take some lard, Crisco, and wipe it down from the top to the bottom, and then wipe off all the excess and let it sit, and that will allow it to stay nice and flexible. And then if you ever get a twisted stick that bends, or it's been leaning against something and it's kind of bent and out of shape, just tie it up against the column like we talked about when you dry these. Put a lot of lard or Crisco on it, and then that'll soften it up, and these will last forever if you take care of them. And it's a great traditional ox driver stick with a lash combination. They look nice, they're very practical, they work well, they're strong. To me, this is the way to go. So thanks for watching. It was very exciting to get it twisted and not have it break. So we appreciate Isaac doing it, and appreciate you guys watching. And please send us any questions or comment on the video. We always like to interact with people. So thanks.